the Shen and Shan Show, where Shenice, my mom,
and Shan the Pan
interview with LGBTQ plus professionals and entrepreneurs.
So let's get giddy and start the show.
Alrighty, guys, we're back again with the Shen and Shan Show. I'm Shan.
And I'm Shenice. We have today a very special guest, and this is Kai Jones with Save Our Sisters United, an amazing nonprofit in the Houston area. And we're really glad to have you on, Kai. Welcome, welcome. Can you please give us an introduction about yourself and about your organization? Tell us how you identify, tell us about your upbringing, whatever you want to throw in there. And I'm sure we're gonna have tons of questions, so.
Kai Jones, pronouns are he, him, his. Born and raised in Texas. I was also a Navy vet before this. I'm a barista bartender. I'm a lot of things before I'm trans. And I just want to express that to people. I am also the co-founder of Save Our Sisters United, INC, or the Save Our Sons and Brothers, but I am under Save Our Sisters United. And it's a program for trans men, and we also have a program for trans women of color. And we kind of assist trans and non-binary and minority women of color in the community. And we also provide a social space and networking space for those individuals. I'm trying to think of what else to say about it. I mostly run like IT support for the Save Our Sisters United itself, and I also help facilitate some of the socials we have for Save Our Sons and Brothers, or SOSB for short.
Okay, perfect, amazing. So tell us about you specifically. I know you are born and raised in Texas. Have you been in Houston the entire time?
No, I moved back to Houston. I left Houston in 2014 when I joined, and then I moved back in 2018, like late 2018, from California. So I've been back since like late 2018, if anything, and it was a journey itself, especially being trans or coming back as trans, and especially noticing the medical differences, I would say, like medical care wise, from Cali versus Texas, which was a struggle for me when I was moving back. Out there, everything's just available. Here I had to like kind of really dig and ask questions to get what I needed.
Wow, I mean, that's a really good nugget that you just even brought up. I've never even thought about that, you know, we could be inside of the same country. However, just even state to state, the accessibility can be very, very different. So before we dive in, because I would love to talk some more about, you know, what led to you realizing that you are, you know, trans and that story. But before we get to that, I do want to talk a little bit more about business and this role you have with Save Our Sisters United. So my first question is, I guess, what started it all? What started it all for you? And why did you see that this was a need?
So coming back to Texas, when I was still like trying to do the whole self-care thing, like look for things that made me feel kind of whole, I ended up volunteering a lot. And I met someone named Atlantis Narcissus. She was the founder of Save Our Sisters United INC. It actually started way back in 2016. But she was there for when I was looking for my medical care, trying to get my name changed, like everything I kind of struggled with getting. She was there to kind of assist me on the way. And just seeing how hard it made me to get it, like I know that there's like probably thousands and thousands of other people struggling to get that care or that even that little name change and whatnot to help them affirm themselves or transition. So I knew there was a need for it. And one day she brought it up to us back in 2020 when I was like actually working like with a nonprofit for a little bit. I was contracted with them. And she said that we can, if she asked us if we wanted to help assist trans men specifically, since there was a heavy need there, especially for a PLC trans men. Because honestly, you go into certain like community pockets or you try to go into the little socials, like you don't have anyone there that relates to your experience, especially like me growing up Black and a Baptist like family and, you know, a heavy Christian family, like that no one there could relate to my experience. Just because, you know, I'm just Black alone, like, and usually it was a lot of non-POC people there. So I knew the space was needed. I knew the network and the connections was needed. And just a way to kind of, we got to kind of uplift that minority community a little more, because we don't see a lot of that here in Houston, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. So take us through just a little bit, just so we get a good grasp on, you know, Save Our Sisters United and the division that you are, you know, essentially started and running. What are some of the typical steps someone would take to affirm themselves being trans that you would help with? What are those typical steps? Because I know you said like name change, right? I don't know what else there might be that is a part of that process, right? So I would love to know in detail, because I've never really had that conversation before.
So with us, we're making a network hub full of connections. Like even right now, we're working on, we actually did connect with like combined arms that assist veteran trans individuals. So it's like making those connections and kind of like a network to link people to certain resources. Like, for example, me right now, like, I understand I'm going to have to be a guinea pig to help other people. Like my DD214, that was like the most, like for me, the most stressful thing I had to figure out on how to get my name changed on that. Like, now that I went through it, I can type this up, get all the forms ready that people need. So we do provide like that knowledge in that network for people to get some type of assistance. Like we even have notarization. So if a trans individual needs like a legal document changed but need to be notarized, they can go to a trans person so they feel comfortable getting that notary done. And they don't have to feel awkward going into like UPS and, you know, having to explain why they're getting this, or have someone read their birth name on some certificate. So just little things like that. Now we're still like growing. But that and medical, like even our little social group of trans men, we do get questions like in our Discord of, hey, what doctors are trans friendly, or hey, where can I go for top surgery? Usually the people that have had those experiences have doctors, and we've even been making a list of doctors, and we're even working on a resource packet right now specifically for name change and gender marker change, but also like friendly doctors and top surgery surgeons, and even like cost-wise stuff to help people kind of navigate the medical area a little easier, because I know it was a struggle, especially coming from California, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. Just listening to all of that is, that's going to change a lot of lives.
No, absolutely, because
Save a lot of lives.
I think that, you know, as a community within a community, a lot of the times it seems a little lost, like as if the trans community gets a bit lost or out of focus, or you know, not really getting the care or attention, you know, all the resources that they need to be their full selves. So whereas, you know, someone like me, I would identify myself as queer. I feel like I am in the right body. I'm fine, you know, being who I am. You know, I don't have to even think about a lot of these other factors, right? So I think there's a little bit of privilege there when I'm just like, yeah, I'm me. And yeah, I can cry over, you know, the spilled milk, as, you know, the LGBTQ community not being accepted in general by society, by many, right? But I don't face nearly as many of the obstacles as the trans community does, right? Would you agree with that? What are some of the obstacles you think are most common, or you are most passionate about when it comes to the trans community?
So the main, I guess, passion about is finding that community, and actually finding a place where you can be a trans man without the fear or stigma of people talking about you, or feeling I guess like a little scared that something might happen to you. You have that community and that support thing. That's what Atlantis Narcissus, that's what she aimed to make when she created SOSU, is to have like a family oriented kind of feel around it. Like Renee Mandiela, the other co-founders, me and him co-founded SOSB. Like he's like my brother, and we call each other out on a lot of stuff. If we mess something up, we can easily call each other out without getting like hurt feelings and, you know, taking it personally. Like like it's like a family feel, if anything. And I feel having that family feel in that social space, like where it's networking too, kind of helps make people feel a lot more comfortable with addressing some obstacles. The main one too, I'm trying to think the main one that we hear a lot, especially now in Texas, all these anti-trans bills are being passed. So it's getting kind of hard to do a lot of things. The most common obstacle is kind of medical, because we only have so handful of doctors that we even know about, but there's like way more in Texas, especially here in Houston, that are here for people that want to do like go on HRT, hormone replacement therapy. Because I know for a while for me, when I was switching doctors, I didn't have a place to get my HRT, and that can be a bad thing because you can't just quit your medication cold turkey. So that's a large obstacle. So for us having like packets like this, I feel like it'll help people easily navigate the medical side of things right now, like that, and like just the social aspect of things. Of having that social network is very important, like having people you can go to and actually talk to, and also feel comfortable.
Absolutely. No, that sounds good. I mean, it sounds like the need is there, right? So that's why this organization is in place, so that you can fill that need and make it a little bit easier on the community to find what they need, or at least have everything front and center so they can make some decisions and go about it.
So I have a question. Are these resources, most of these doctors or whatever else type of resources, are they typically free of charge or very discounted? How do you guys handle that type of issue with the trans community?
So right now we are currently working on making like assistance programs for medical. So hopefully in the future we will be able to like assist people with going on HRT or any bills or anything they need help with, being trans. But some of the doctors we have, they are typically low cost or extremely trans friendly. Like I believe there's a Dr. Kovacs. They usually recommend the Legacy, because Legacy does have like some money saving stuff going on there, to save people the extra cash, but to also be able to visit the doctor. So we do kind of look at that when it comes to affordability too, and the best place they would be able to receive care, if to little to no cost if possible.
Right. Yeah. No, that's amazing. And I just would like to, before we move on to our next portion, what are, the criteria or the process to join your organization? So for example, is it an organization where you have to formally join? Is it you can just come and attend events? Can allies to the trans community join, help? Just tell us a little bit about that. What is the structure of the organization? How can others help?
And also, is there an age limit as well?
Yeah, that's a good question too.
So the age limit. So it's like we say 18 and older, because when we deal with anything younger, I don't think we have the proper documentation to like deal with anyone younger at the moment. Structure wise, like honestly, we all started at Atlantis's bedroom apartment, like just I believe like 4 or 5 of us in that little space just working, and that's all there is right now. But we do ask for help for like if anyone has like any services or skills that they'll be willing to offer to us. We try not to turn them away, because honestly we can use anything we can get. But to join the organization itself, if you feel like you fit into that community and you want that space, like we have a Discord going for the trans male side right now. We're still working on the female side, but the male side we do have up. If they want to message us on our Facebook, then you can just message on the Facebook, and someone to get back to you, and we'll like give you a Discord form to fill out. And usually we try to post like a Discord form, and we just make sure you fit like POC kind of, and you just fit in that community. So we don't want to give the floor to anyone like that already has a floor like elsewhere. I don't know how else to better explain that. It's like we need a space where trans men, like for example, can talk about the sensitive issues that you can't talk just anywhere else. Yeah, so it's like that space is for trans men, but I'm just only speaking on their side because so far that's what we got a Discord for. So we usually do have a Discord form on our Facebook page somewhere, or you can just message or have someone message to go on there. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything else.
Did he answer?
No, I think that sounds good. Okay,
Also, lost my train of thought.
that's okay.
Yeah, I'll come
So,
back.
it sounds.
Oh, that's what I wanted to say.
Go
I
ahead.
remember. So if someone wanted to donate, let's just say financially to your organization, how would they go about that?
So I know on the Save Our Sisters United Facebook page, there is a button on there for, I believe it's PayPal that's on there. Or we also do have a website, sosuinc.org, which isn't super public right now. So, I mean, not a lot of people know that it's like actually up now, because we were kind of like saving it for some other time. But you can also go there and there's like a donate button. Like we set up like kind of like subscription based things right now, but donating is always like we're always open to donations of any kind, honestly. Like recently we got like socks, we can use that for like care packages in the future, or for trans individuals. And like again, skills too, if anyone feel like they have a skill, like either like for example tech support or marketing, and they feel like helping out, then we're down to have volunteers too. And if anything, if they're interested in that, just email info@sosuinc.org, and then we'll be forwarded to the right person to actually talk about volunteering. Events wise, we don't have any. We're working on one event that's going to be during TDR, Transgender Day of Remembrance, but I'm not going to tell y'all too much about that because it's still in the works. But that's going to be our first SOSU event. So it'll be on our Facebook page whenever that pops up. And then hopefully we're hoping to have more events in the future to actually have volunteers, because I honestly do like working with volunteers.
Yeah, no.
And I don't know if you can answer this question, but I know when you're transitioning, it's a slow and steady transition. But if you had to put a number on it, in order for anyone that's transitioning, what do you think medically monthly? How much money would it cost a trans person to take care of themselves monthly?
Like without insurance?
Without insurance.
Without insurance. There's this cool thing called Good RX, which helps save on the HRT. But if that person is on HRT and not using that, I would say like $50 for their HRT itself. If they're
a month supply?
It's about a month's supply for HRT, like $50 or $60 sometimes. And then like it's not like monthly checkups, it's like every 6 months or so, or 3 to 6 months, you would have to go see a doctor. And I believe that's like who I see. I only, if I have no insurance, it'll cost like $171 for who I go see. So that's for a doctor visit. So the $171, then like let's just say 60 math, like we're looking like over $200. I know, just to kind of take care of yourself as a trans person. If you're on HRT, that is, and if you're doing some checkups. But then you can't ignore like medical, like health issues too, because honestly, there can be a lot going on, like especially when you're just starting. You have to go more than every 3 months. I believe it's like once, or like it's like 1 or 2 months, like every 1 or 2 months, because they got to get your HRT just right, because you got to make sure your levels are right, or that can make things worse than it is. Right. And then we're not, like another one is mental health care. And I know like some people do receive that when they're, also transitioning, because it's never, a bad thing. But if you want to count that too, like that's, I want to say like 500 if you're counting for all of that.
Yeah.
But like, just for me, like I want to say like 230, like 230, but $60 Mac if you're on HRT,
No, I think you brought up a really great point, because it's not just the medical care. We also have to take care of our mind as well. And it seems like, the mental health piece of it is important to you. Why are you recommending people, go ahead and make sure you factor in the cost of your mental health care as well?
I talk about that a lot too, because it's like when I was first transitioning back in 2018, like I believe it was when I actually affirmed myself in 2018. There was a brief moment of time where, like, from 2014 to that point where I decided that I wanted to receive like healthcare. Um, like when I first like got out and joined boot camp after I left home, like went to the Navy. In the back of my head, I was constantly telling myself this too. I'm just a female. I gotta deal with that. That's it. It was like my daily kind of affirmations a little bit. I was telling myself that pretty much every day until that point. Is like there's nothing I can do about it. I just gotta suck it up and be this, like, kind of thing. Like every day I was like telling myself that, until one point where I had got like married, and I was just super depressed. I was just looking for things. I was looking for someone. I turned to like alcohol to kind of not think about things less. I was going out like every weekend, just like getting like blackout drunk. Like although I felt like crap the next morning, I just kept doing it because I just didn't want to have to think about those thoughts in the back of my head, and just kind of
think that that is a direct result of you telling yourself a lie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Not being yourself. That is a direct. Okay.
Yeah, I was just lying to myself the whole time, and I was just so unhappy and miserable. And then when she went to like workups, she was gone for like 2 months. I started to receive therapy after I got out, of course, because military mental health providers aren't the greatest in terms of LGBTQ. I guess, mental health. So I went to the local like LGBTQ center and found a therapist there, and actually talking about it and digging. Like I was there for like 6 months until I finally decided like I deserve to be happy just like everybody else. I was in a like toxic relationship, so all that was like honestly me just lying to myself. It was creating this very negative person which was me, and I was just so mad at everyone. I like basically hated myself because I didn't feel like myself.
Right.
And just after receiving that therapy and actually getting to know me, and then I just felt 100% better. Like I like grew, I can say, as a person, and I felt more comfortable and more confident going out and actually being me and finding different ways to cope, which was volunteering. That's how I ended up meeting Atlantis. Like I just kept volunteering where I could because I felt like helping other people kind of helped me heal in a way,
I have a question about trans and employment. Okay. I had a conversation with someone a few years ago, and what they shared with me was eye-opening. Of course, we know LGBTQ plus and poverty is really, really high, right? But once you break it down into the trans community, it goes up even higher. So what do you think is the main reasoning behind that? Or, I mean, I know it could be some mental health issues. It also could be afraid of rejection, things like that. But if we had to fix this solution, what would you say would be a great way to start that? Or if you feel like there's an issue with trans community and employment.
So I think trans community employment, like, of course, when you go work somewhere, you want to feel like your authentic self, I would say it's more for the trans women than it is the men, because you little to know, like sometimes you don't really hear too much about us with employment. You do, but you really don't. But it's mostly focused on the trans women.
Okay.
And it's like you want to go into a job and feel comfortable, of course. And I think that kind of with some employers, it's just, I know you can't really, it's like, I know there's employment laws. I feel like that helps, but I think it's getting people to understand to not accept the person, but respect them. And it's not about the accepting, it's just respecting them as a person.
Right.
And let them, feeling like safe and comfortable in the environment they're in. Because just because they get that job, that doesn't mean they're going to deal with sexual harassment or any type of ill affirming, like no one's affirming them properly in the workspace kind of thing.
Right.
And I think it's just all we like right now is just educate people on respecting and try to veer them away from that whole thought process of, oh, I don't like what you're doing, I don't accept it, which is an excuse for just respecting that person as a person. There are a lot of things they are before they are trans.
Right.
And so I think it's all just about that key respect for them as an individual,
Right.
And educating people on that to kind of help with the situation so far, Yeah, that's all I can really say about that, honestly.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, so people that's listening to our podcast, if you are an employer, just make sure you're being open to the trans community. Make sure you're, I don't know if the right word to use is affirming,
or just create a safe space, right? And respect people's boundaries and what they are telling you are their preferences, right? So for example, I thought of this, that growing up, there were a lot of people who you refer to as Miss, Mrs., Mr., right? And I know that I may have called someone Mrs. and they weren't married, and they're like, no, it's not Mrs., I'm Miss, right? And my thing is, would you respect that? Would you call them Miss instead of Mrs.?
Right.
You would, right? Because I know I would. So if you make the mistake, and we all make mistakes, I make mistakes even inside of the trans community, or not the trans community, but inside of the LGBTQ community. My thing is, what is that counted as? What is Mrs. Is that what is that called? I can't remember. But my whole point, you get what I'm saying. Is like, we would take the time out to make sure that we try to address people accordingly, right? I think that it's a respect thing, just like you said. Nobody says that you have to sign off on on what I see myself as, or what I want to do with my life. It's none of your business.
Yeah.
But we can take the time out and be respectful of each other and just honor each other's wishes, as long as it's not hurting anybody. Then why is society so worried about it?
Right. I agree.
Why is society so bent on rejecting it just because it's not necessarily what they're used to, or what their view is on, the norm, right? So why are you so bent on accepting it if, it's just like, even.
Or why is it so hard? I feel like a lot of people make it seem like it's just so hard to do, when it's not. It's just a respect thing. And if we learn how to respect one another and just accept everyone for who they are, what they do, we wouldn't be having these problems in the first place. So I would just tell, society, like, stop judging, and just, my favorite quote is walk in love.
Yeah.
Like, just do that. I promise it would be a lot better for everyone. Because when you were talking about the trans community and just, certain issues that go on, like, I'm over here like trying to hold back tears, because just hearing that, it just makes me so sad that anyone has to go through this. And even someone like me, that most people think I am trans, but it doesn't affect me like I think it would affect someone that is trans, right? And so if we just walk around with respect and love, it just,
I don't know who we were talking about or talking to. I think we were having a conversation with someone like last week or something, and I believe they said, there are people out here, right, that are children, right? You have to be produced from somebody, someone's child, now grown adult, and they go out and break the law. They're killing people, or just doing them all. They could be embezzling money. They could be just breaking the law, just in general, hurting other people, hurting people's businesses, hurting the things that people have worked for. You know what I'm saying? And what do those parents and families do? A lot of them accept them, right? Even after all of those things have been committed. But something as close to the heart as who you are as a person, why is it so difficult for us to accept each other and love each other? Why is that so difficult? So just to give some perspective, I think it's good to talk about some of these things, because after people make mistakes, we can do the work to accept them, right? And to still love them. But it's not a mistake to be your true self, and society struggles with it. So, food for thought. But anyways, Kai, I would really like to dive a little bit deeper into your personal life just for a little bit.
And we were taught a quick mini lesson just before we got on, because we're used to saying coming out, but when you're transitioning is there's a different terminology or phrase that's used. It's called affirming yourself. And so
It probably just depends on the individual, right? And so that's how you like to refer to it, Kai. And you affirmed yourself.
This episode is supported by Queer of Real Estate Group. Our goal is to bridge the large wealth and homeownership gap that exists in the LGBTQ plus community. Follow us for education, tips, guides, and inspiration on Instagram at Queer of Real Estate, and message us to get the homeownership process started and matched with an LGBTQ plus or allied professional in your area. Connect with us on Instagram at Queer of Real Estate.
Yeah, and it's mostly to do with the way Atlanta sees it. Like she's like, like I said, like mother mentor kind of thing. Is like we transition out of it every day. You transition out of your seat, you transition out of bed. Like everyone transitions, but being yourself, like you're always going to be yourself. You're just affirming yourself to who you actually are. So that's why I use affirming.
I love it. Love it. Love it.
So Kai, just take me through your journey to affirming yourself. So I know you said you'd gotten married, you were living a life that was not really yours, right? I mean, so take me through that journey. How did you identify? When did you realize you were part of the LGBTQ community? And what did you identify as at that time? And did that change once you did affirm yourself?
So the LGBTQ community in general, I knew, and I know this is gonna I knew that when I was in kindergarten. I knew that I still remember the name of the girl I first had a crush on. Like I remember all that. So
I remember my teacher.
Really?
Yes.
It's
hopefully.
I knew since then though. But like growing up in the household I did, of course, I didn't say anything. I grew up with my mother and my grandparents mostly. So I grew up with them saying like very terrible terminology for gay and lesbian individuals. So I was always afraid and didn't feel safe enough to say, hey, I like girls, I'm a lesbian at the time. So even since then, I always kind of wish when I start feeling that way, I was like, I don't feel like I'm, a girl kind of, but of course I didn't tell them anything. So I did the smart thing for me and I kind of escaped the situation. Once I hit high school, I went on ahead and like basically signed the documents to join the Navy and just walked up to them like one day. I was like, hey guys, I'm leaving. Like I'm going to the Navy in like 3-4 weeks. And they're like, what? And I'm just like, yeah, like I'm leaving. And of course they tried to stop me, but I did what was best for me at the time because that was for me. I was like, I'm going to take a step to actually be myself and have the space to actually be myself without the fear of being judged by them or anyone else. So once I left, of course, I went to Great Lakes, and that's when I was battling with the whole 4-year thing of being trans and my identity itself until I was until 2018. So I got married, I want to say like 2017, if I remember correctly. And I was kind of at that moment just looking for someone to be with. I was just looking for someone to like, I guess, comfort me, like be like that peace. Cause I just felt like I was kind of empty and a little dead inside. So I was just looking for something to make me like whole or something. And so I was trying all sorts of different things like, her. And then I just went like before her, even alcohol, and just, it wasn't doing it for me until I decided to like seek help and actually dig a little deep into that. Like our whole relationship was like pretty toxic, and it's on both our parts, but I take responsibility for myself too, because I was not in the right headspace when I took those certain actions to do what I did. Like I knew I never should have got married in my head, but I did it anyway because I was hoping something would be better. So just that whole journey of I guess becoming trans, it was a very interesting one, and I learned a lot. And it's like I think back, but I don't have no regrets, you know. Like I feel like everything's a learning lesson, and I'm really thankful that I went through what I went through, and the individuals that I met on the way there. But it was a it was a pretty interesting ride, I could say that.
Yeah, definitely.
So I would ask, how is your relationship with your mom and your grandparents?
So my grandparents, like I'm at the point now where I don't need people to validate me. They still, my grandparents themselves refer to me as my birth name, but they also know that I'm trans. So it's like they're trying to learn. And I told them, don't feel offended if you feel like I'm hurt, because I'm not, because I don't need y'all to validate me. Not trying to sound like rude, but I'm like, I don't need anybody's validation.
Right.
So it's like I'm here to. They're like really open to being, you know, educated on the topic, and they try. My mom, on the other hand, she doesn't care. Like she's just like, she's honestly like the chillest mom ever. So like she's like open to
That's
anything.
awesome.
And surprisingly, my younger sibling, they're non-binary. So it's like so it's like, okay, well, you have both of us, you know. But she's a pretty chill mom, so they took it pretty well.
And at what point did you tell them? Did you take time out to talk to them, or was it just something, it was just, you know, the next time they see me or they ask questions, then that'll be that we can discuss it whenever they want to. I'm not gonna, you know, go ahead and confront that. What did
Yeah,
you?
so I would say with my mom, I told her, like I was like, I'm gonna just let her know so she can try to start adjusting herself. My grandparents, I was like, whenever you ask, you ask. But I mean, I didn't tell my mom like during the time I was identifying as a woman, I was a lesbian until I was married. And before she came to visit, like I want to say, like 4 days before she hopped on that plane to come visit me. Like I was like, hey, by the way, I'm a lesbian and I'm married. Like that's when she found out, you know, because I just didn't feel like, you know, it was not necessary at the time until she came to visit. So I just gave her heads up before she came there. I was like, oh God, what happened? You know? So I mean, it was more of a, you know, like for them, my grandparents, whenever they want to ask questions, sure. My mom, I just went on ahead and told her. It's like, I was like, well, you know, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah. And you know, I think there are probably a lot of people who can identify or relate to you. And I hope this question makes sense. But do you now looking back, do you think that you've always been trans? And I don't know if that question makes sense, right? Because do you think I don't know if people are always one thing, but, and you just correct me, but do you think you've always been trans, but at first you thought, oh, I like girls, that equals lesbian? I guess what flipped the switch? I know we talked about therapy, but internally, like with you, inside of you, what made you know I'm not a lesbian, I'm trans? Or did you really think, or is there I guess a space where you would have said, yes, I was a lesbian, but now at this point in this journey, this time point in my life, now I know I am trans. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes sense. Honestly, it's like looking back on it. Yes, I felt like I've never felt comfortable like being, I guess, a female. That I never fit as being a girl. Even growing up, like, of course, you know, like I know hating dresses might not be a sign, but I couldn't stand buying feminine clothing or clothing from the girls section. I just didn't feel comfortable with doing that. Like I can go to the guys section, get a guy's pair of jeans and be okay with that, you know? There was always, I guess, those signs back then there that I didn't really click with who I was. And I think I just kind of throughout the years just struggled with that until it built up so much to where I had to turn to things to kind of try to complete myself. And I guess it clicked for me more when it got so bad that I knew that I had to see someone, that I was saying these daily affirmations of me just being a girl and sucking it up, that I knew that
It's
internally.
not an affirmation.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
is not an affirmation.
Yeah, well, yeah, not an
You
affirmation,
know,
but-
like, but
but-
that's what you were trying to drill into yourself so badly. Like, I don't know. It's just like, that is not, affirmations
yeah.
are supposed to build you up, but you were trying to break yourself down.
Yeah, he basically thought he was building himself up.
You
by
thought you
saying
were.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that's not, and I know you know that's not an affirmation. I'm just saying, like, but this is what people think, right? These things, what you went through, these are the types of things that people go through. And they're like, I'm going to tell myself an affirmation. I am a wonderful female and I love my body and I love, you know, being myself in this female awful body, you know, and it's not an affirmation.
Oh yeah, I definitely tried to build myself up and it was not working. It just made things worse, if anything else. And that's when it honestly clicked that I knew that like I couldn't do it anymore, honestly. And just that build up from when I was little to then, it just like, that was kind of like my last resort kind of thing, is like, okay, I can't do this. Because in my mind, I was really hoping that therapy would kind of help with the situation, like make me feel like that's not what I wanted to do. Especially being in the military, it's not really looked upon in a great way. There was a point when I was receiving, like, when I was really about to go through with it, I was working with Marines at the time. And I remember he was listening to a podcast, and it was talking about trans individuals and basically how they were wrong. And he said, he was like, those people are sick, they need help. And I just remember in that moment, my heart had like dropped and I just felt so uncomfortable. I felt unsafe. And I was like, okay, I just need to suck this shit up and not do anything about it.
Yeah.
So, like, I waited until after I left to kind of figure it out. And so that kind of kept me from receiving help a little earlier on than I wanted to. And even though I felt like comfortable with them and working with them, like that kind of, I guess it made me feel like I couldn't like tell anyone. I had just, you know, just keep this to myself and just deal and just be what I am now, you know, or before. Yeah.
It was so crazy that you talked about that, because whenever you said that you turned 18 and you went straight to the military because you knew that you were part of the LGBTQ plus community. And in my head, I was thinking military LGBTQ plus. I was in my head, I kind of thought you kind of jumped out of the grease into the frying pan or something like that, like leaving your family and then going to the military because you're trying to run from it. So I was going to ask, what was the logic behind that? But to me, it sounded like that was part of your journey to really figuring out yourself.
I think to me, it sounds like the first priority was to basically get away from, like, to basically be on your own. That was priority number one. What is the ticket that will help me be on my own? Or it's like the safest ticket, probably financially, right? Yes. And so, you know, otherwise it would be so difficult to do it. But anyways, that's what I'm hearing is like priority number one was
get away.
How can I get away, but not be homeless and not fall into the wrong, potentially things that could drive my life downwards. Not saying that the military can't do that, but, you know, anyways, go ahead.
Oh yeah, it can definitely do that. But yes and no at the same time. My logic was kind of, I did want to get away from my family. Being the middle child, everyone knows the middle child gets away with a lot of stuff. So we don't get as much attention, so we can do kind of whatever we want. So for me, being the middle child, like, honestly, I was depressed for a long time. And being Black, you know, some households don't believe in mental health. So it's kind of, you kind of suck it up and deal with it yourself. So yeah, I wanted to get away from the situation, but I also was so like down on myself that I didn't feel like I was smart enough to go to college. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I was just worried about all these things. And I was like, I don't even want to stay here. Yeah. Like, I was like, I really don't want to stay here. At some point I tried to even kill myself. So I was like, nah, I can't, I want to get out. So that was the Navy and going to ROTC. I was in ROTC from like 9th grade to like 12th. So it kind of like throughout those years of being with them, it kind of made me like, oh, I can do this. Like, this is pretty easy. Like I can get away with this. So that was like kind of my ticket out of there was the military. And so that's why I just jumped and went to.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the military, hearing that story from the other officer or military person, kind of delayed your transition, correct? Because hearing that, you
You're
waited.
talking about the one that
Listening to the podcast, yeah.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
okay.
But you know what? I think the biggest message here is don't wait until you're running away, until you're turning to alcohol, partying, toxic relationships. Don't wait. Go ahead and get the therapy you need, because a lot of the times you go into therapy thinking the outcome is going to be something, that you formulated in your mind. But then the outcome winds up being completely opposite. But that's why we need to address those things and go to a professional who is inclusive, who is accepting, who is affirming, who understands us. And sometimes it takes searching. You might get to the first therapist and they don't work for you. That's okay. Like, we have to be more intentional about finding who fits in our space and finding who will truly help us, because it has to be something that's in tune. It doesn't mean that you run away from a therapist because you don't agree with what they're saying.
Right.
You're probably not going to agree with what they're saying. However, I think it's worth it for you to explore, right? And get that process started, even if you don't think you were in a situation like Kai was, right? Like Kai, you were, on the verge of committing suicide. You're on the verge of, just everything toxic in your life, right? And would you think that's accurate? Would you tell people to hurry up and go get some therapy? Like, what's your stance on it?
Oh yeah, I'm a big stickler for therapy, not just for trans needs, but just for in general. I feel like self-care is an important thing to practice.
Yep.
And honestly, that's why SOSU and SOSB, that's why those spaces exist. So people don't have to go through what I've been through, or whoever else in the organization or in the community that we have in SOSB has been through, or anyone in SOS. That's why they're there, to prevent people from going or repeating the same thing or the mistakes that they have been through, to let them know there's these other options, and to just do it, to take care of themselves.
So how would you recommend someone in the LGBTQ community, and if you have anything additional for the trans community, I don't know if there's an additional layer there, how would you recommend that they go about to finding a good therapist for them?
So I would say, reach out to orgs that have been, or offer social groups or social networking groups. Reach out to those orgs, like trans-friendly orgs or trans orgs, such as ourselves, or even the Montrose Center, they have some, and try to reach out to those social groups and ask those questions on therapists. That will honestly alleviate a lot of headache from having to search on your own, while there's people that actually been through that process that can give you a straight answer then and there, or options straight then and there. It's you don't have to go in the dark to search for these therapists. I think the best way is to get in a social network, to be able to ask questions to people that have been through it, so you don't have to ever go through all that headache they did.
Right. So you don't have to be the guinea pig, y'all. Kai has already been the guinea pig for us. Okay. So and there's tons of people willing to share that information. I think that's great advice. Ask the people, ask the community, find that community, right? Just like the one, Kai, you're creating, find your community, and then start asking those questions. You can even phrase it as, hey, my friend is looking, even if it's for you. If you're uncomfortable, you can always phrase it like that. Hey, my friend is looking for a therapist. Do you know any good trans therapists that I can refer to them? There's so many good possibilities there. And find those safe spaces. It's so important, especially for the community, especially for the trans community, because it's heartbreaking what that community goes through. And, we have to keep working towards creating a safer, better, more loving world.
And I always have to ask this question, because I think deep down inside of me, I am Cupid. So,
Oh my gosh. Don't believe that.
hi,
Do not believe that.
are you in a relationship?
I am not. It's I feel like, but going trans, like after I affirmed myself, it's like it felt like it got harder. There was a point where I'm just like, okay, like even right now, I'm just like whatever about it. I'm not even like gonna waste my time because some people, if you probably heard this before, feel lied to if you're trans and you're trying to date, or they say things, oh, I'm not gay or I'm not a lesbian. Like it's just hearing those type of things kind of want like turn you away from it. There was at one point where I was trying to get into a relationship, but then I mentioned the trans thing, and of course she backed off a little bit and was like, okay, just friends. So I was just like, all right, it's whatever. Like it's discouraging sometimes, but I know there are people out there that probably have been way more successful than I have. But I feel like dating in the trans community or being trans and dating is kind of hard, especially for people like me being like identifying as a straight trans man. So just like in women, it's a little more I feel difficult. It's like at one point I had like 4 million apps on my phone, and then I just deleted them all because I just said that I come to a point where I'm just like, I don't need it that bad. If I feel like I need it, then I don't need it. Like that if I don't feel like I'm whole enough by myself to where I need someone, it's like it's just not for me.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think you're awesome guys. So they're out there, whoever it may be. And so last question. Are you ready to mingle? Because we have all types of
No,
listeners.
do not believe her. Do not believe her. I hear this to everybody.
And I'm gonna
She is
put you
not
in my
Cupid.
Cupid book, okay?
That's okay. I'm not gonna say no. Whatever happens, happens. I'm kind of just going with whatever happens.
But are you ready to mingle?
Oh yeah, like I'm okay to like date like again. Especially someone as nerdy as me. It's like okay, I'm down for anything.
Yeah,
I'm just like whatever comes my way, let it happen. But if not, I know I'm okay by myself. So
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's
Give me
good.
an idea.
That's so strong. No, we're not going to ideas. We need to go with
Okay,
these
all
rapid
right, wrap
questions.
up questions. I was thinking about a
Do
trans
do
speed
not
dating-
enable her, please.
a trans
Please,
speed
just
dating.
stop. Just stop.
networking.
There's every trans person will probably date a different type of person. So
But that's why you would have the
Bye.
everybody.
Just
But
don't pay her
anyways,
any mind, please.
anyways,
Lord.
first question. What I'm sorry. Where do you find your motivation?
So motivation, I just know assisting others and volunteering, like giving back just motivates me because I know that I'm helping someone. And then it's like I know everyone, like still me now, like I even struggle trying to stay motivated, but I know what I want to do in life, which keep me motivated. My main like major is video game programming. I had that passion ever since I picked up a PlayStation 1 controller back when I was like 6, if I'm trying to remember. So I know that's like my main passion and my goal. It kind of drives me. And even like working with SOS, I also like help with their IT support, knowing that I can incorporate what I learned in school to help them. I don't know, tech wise, I just love that stuff. It's just motivational to know that I'm helping someone.
Yeah.
It is more motivation for me, and I know in the long run it's always going to make me a better person. So I just try to stay open to those situations. But that's my main motivation, honestly.
Okay. What advice would you give to someone in the LGBTQ community that would like to advance in their career or level up in their business?
I this advice, like, what's the worst that can happen? Honestly, it's like as long as you put your 100% and you're fully into it, then try it. If not, then at least you can say you tried. Like, there's a thing I know my major used to say back in the day is like, I can learn anything as long as someone's willing to teach me. It's like if you feel that you want to advance somewhere, just try it. Like, see if you like it, but don't be miserable. As long as you're liking what you're doing, just keep doing it, or try other things if you're not feeling that way. You only got one life, so live it.
Alrighty, and besides the Shen and Shan Show, what is your favorite book or podcast?
That's a hard one. So like podcast wise, honestly, that's kind of hard. I kind of dabble a lot, but more in the D&D like area of like stories or games. Like I said before, I'm a huge nerd. So like D&D podcast.
D&D? That's the name of
Dungeons and
it?
Dragons, like Dungeons and
Dungeons and
Dragons.
Dragons.
Oh.
Okay.
I still don't know what that is, but okay.
Oh yeah, it's interesting. It's been around for years, but it's a very nerdy thing. But I do enjoy hearing the Let's Plays on there in the background. So that's what I like to do. I mainly dabble in video games. So like but books, the only one that I ever really read a lot right now, because I don't read a lot of books, the only one I ever read right now is gonna be Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Like just because I relate with it so much, just his whole experience. So I honestly love that book, especially if you're looking for some motivation. I would say that's definitely a book you can go grab real quick and instantly like feel a little more motivated.
Yeah. Awesome.
Alrighty, so please let our audience know where they can get in touch with you.
So to get in touch with me, like the best way is going through either the Facebook, Save Our Sons and Brothers, or Save Our Sisters United, or even emailing the info at SOSUINC, or you can just email me directly, which would be k.jones@SOSUINC. If you have any questions, I'm pretty open to answer them.
Amazing. All right, Kai. This has been a great conversation. I mean, I
so
could
many
go
other
on.
questions.
I know I can go on and on and on and on about questions I have about the trans community, what we can do, how we can move forward, what the need is. But I really appreciate just having such a vulnerable, honest conversation from someone who has transitioned and has been lost in life, as many of us are at many times, at many points in our lives. So we really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on, and we look forward to seeing you soar. So
Thank you for having me.
you're so welcome. All righty. Thanks, Kai.
Thanks for watching.
Like, subscribe, and share the video to your friends. In the comment section down below, write how good the video was.
And if you're listening to the podcast, make sure to hit a 5-star review.
Bye!